Isn't it obvious what China is trying to do with their naval buildup?
The end game is basically to dominate the seas. And the first thing is to get the U.S. out of Asia. And they tell us that in very specific terms. What they've been doing over the last year or so is actually grabbing reefs and shoals from other nations. So, for instance, last year they took Scarborough Shoal from the Philippines. And to our shame, we didn't defend the Philippines, even though we have a mutual defense treaty, because nobody in the White House wanted to confront the Chinese. Even voices in the Pentagon were saying that China's aggression served the Philippines right for kicking us out of Clark and Subic. But the problem is, the Chinese weren't satisfied with just Scarborough Shoal. They then ramped up their pressure on the Senkakus, which are now administered by Japan. And again, we have a mutual defense treaty with the Japanese. So this is a case of an aggressor becoming much more belligerent as it succeeds in taking territory away. And the United States, which has so much more power, obviously has no will to confront the Chinese. We sort of think, well, we want to avoid conflict, but by doing that, we're creating the conditions for a much bigger battle in the future. I think that what we have done is we have signaled to the Philippines that if they asked us, we would not help them. So technically there may be no violation, but in effect we have reneged on it because we could have prevented China from taking Scarborough Shoal. And, this is important because just a week or so ago the Chinese grabbed another shoal from the Philippines. So this is a case of China seeing weakness, then pressing the advantage. And so eventually we will have to confront the Chinese over this. This is the same dynamic that we saw in 1939. I know the circumstances are different, but when the great democracies are not willing to stand up against the bullies, we know what happens. History told us. And so I'm very concerned that we are preparing basically for a much bigger fight in the future because we are not willing to confront the Chinese now over behavior for them, which is completely unjustified.
Well, what should this administration be doing in its relationship with China?
We should be saying both publicly and in private that China shall not take territory away from other countries, including the Philippines, Japan, India, South Korea. The United States, I believe, should be there to say, we are the ultimate guarantor of security in the region, and we will not allow any country, including China, to disrupt the peace. What the administration has done to its credit, and this was primarily when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, she said that the United States would stand behind Japan in connection with the Senkakus dispute, and that pledge has been made by Secretary Kerry. But we've said it in very soft tones. What we need to do is have not just a Secretary of State or a Secretary of Defense say something. We need the President of the United States to say that, and in public, and in a way that the Chinese understood that we meant business. So far,